You probably know by now. I know they've been talking about it most of the day today, and it's been on our newscast. The federal budget comes down tomorrow. A couple of leaks already today as far as what they're calling help for your groceries. One of the things that has not been talked about much, and I saw this story last week and thought, oh, wait a sec, a giant hike in our alcohol tax, which does not get talked about until, of course, you realize we're not talking about going up 1% or 2%. And apparently this is built into the program, right? There's an annual tax and it will continue to climb. So the industry in this country, the restaurant industry, which obviously makes a lot of its money selling alcohol, is quite concerned because it's going to be the biggest hike in more than 40 years. CJ HÉLIE, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is the president of Beer Canada and on the line right now. Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Pretty good. I guess better than you, looking at what could be potentially this gigantic tax increase. Can you explain, first of all, when we say a tax hike, how this would affect restaurants?
Well, as you mentioned, the sale of beverage alcohol, and particularly beer, is a real important profit driver for licensed bars and restaurants. And so at the moment, they just feel that they can't afford to pay anymore for alcohol. But at the same time, when they're talking to the patrons sitting at the bar, they can't pass on a higher price in the price of the pint. So they're really going to be in a tight spot if, in fact, the federal tax hike does go forward on April 1st.
Okay, and from what you understand, and again, if you could put this in context, this is, as I said, from what I read anyway, this is sort of built into the system, right? So it doesn't come as news that there would be a tax hike. Is it the size of the hike that's new? What's going on here?
So historically, there has been this federal beverage alcohol excise duty that nobody ever really talks about because you never see it on a receipt or a bill, right? It's a production tax. It's imposed on the brewer at the point of time when they produce the beer, and it typically is included in the price of the beer that is then sold to a distributor, and the distributor then sells to the bar or restaurant. So it's a hidden tax, and since 2017, the government of Canada introduced a automatic inflation-based increase to those beer tax rates. And so for the first 4 or 5 years, we were in this Goldilocks economy that the Department of Finance thought would last forever of 1% to 2% inflation. So there was this small, modest increase in the excise every year since 2017. Of course, as you know, the world went upside down in the last year. Inflation skyrocketed. Bank of Canada had to roll in and raise interest rates. If we're not in a recession, most consumers do feel we're in a recession, so they feel really squeezed. So it's really a terrible time to think about increasing beer taxes by, again, an astronomical 6.3%.
Okay, so there's your 1 or 2%, 6-point change for a hike here. That's a lot of dough.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it, it's compounded, right? So restaurants, as you said, in terms of inflation, they're dealing with $6 heads of romaine and $5 heads of broccoli. And now on top of that, and so much of the profit, I assume, is made through the sale of alcohol when people are dining out. So this cuts seriously into their profit margins. But so if I'm understanding correctly, CJ, they in an ideal world, they don't want to pass this increase on to the customer.
Exactly right. They're just feeling the same thing that everybody else is, that everybody feels really stretched at the moment, and they're noticing it, right? When somebody's coming into a bar restaurant in Montreal today, they're looking at the menu and they're a little bit shocked by the prices. And people understand why it's happening, but they're still shocked. And they're saying, well, where can I cut back? And do they cut back on the dessert? Or often they cut back on the alcohol purchase.
Right.
It's so true.
By the way, this affects wine, not just beer, right? This affects all alcoholic beverages?
Correct. Yes, it is beer, wine, and spirits. That's right.
Beer, wine, and spirits. I literally did that this weekend. Like dining out, it was so expensive, and so I had one glass of wine. Whereas normally on a Saturday night out for dinner, I would have 2 glasses of wine. But I was like, you know what? I don't need the second glass of wine, and I'm happy to save the $14 because that $14 glass of wine used to be about 11, I'll say. So yes, definitely as customers, as consumers, we are feeling it. But I want to come back to sort of the post-pandemic reality of bars and restaurants. I feel like they're barely getting back on their feet. It has been a huge struggle. So I imagine the fear here is that this could be the final nail in the coffin for many of them.
Natasha, you're exactly right. Bars and restaurants really were probably the hardest hit sector through the pandemic. And lots of them took on debt just to keep their doors open, right? They thought that, it's going to get better next week. It's going to get better next month. It lasted over 2 years. So as soon as they came out of the pandemic and they were about to get back to what they thought were normal times, they were hit with these huge cost increases. You mentioned some. Food costs went through the roof, right? But also their rent, their insurance. So here they are faced with this new debt load and these new increased costs. And as you mentioned earlier, it's alcohol where they make most of their profit. The higher margins on alcohol than on the food side. And so if there's an increase of 6.3% on their beer, wine, and spirits costs that they can't pass along to their patrons, it's going to put some of them out of business for sure.
So I mentioned the budget comes out tomorrow. You're hoping, I guess, for the best here. Have there been discussions with the government on this? Are your association suggesting, wait a sec, could we think twice about going ahead with this?
Yes, numerous discussions really since last budget, so for the last year. And we have made some significant inroads in the Ottawa bubble, if I could call it that. So the influential House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance recommended a freeze on alcohol taxes for this year and next, and until inflation returns to the Bank of Canada's 1% to 3% target range. And early last week, there was a opposition motion to freeze beer taxes, beer, wine, and spirits taxes, and that received a majority of votes within Parliament. So I think there is a lot of support for a freeze, and that's what we're hoping to hear tomorrow.
Well, I wish you luck. I mean, a lot of people with a lot of different ideas and, hopes, I guess, for what's going to be in this budget. Now, I understand that, am I right? You hired, or when I say you, the Beer Canada got Bob and Doug McKenzie together to do a commercial for this?
Yes. So we thought was a great story, right? This crazy idea that in the middle of, or as we get ending into a recession, somebody's going to increase beer taxes by 6.3%. Mm-hmm. So we thought we had this great message, but the question was, who's a good messenger? Who could talk to people and get people's attention? And so we thought of Bob and Doug, and we put a cold call in essentially to Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. And they came back and said, listen, we are very protective of the Bob and Doug McKenzie characters that we created. They've been in hibernation for some time, and we're unlikely to come out of retirement. But what's your pitch? And we told them the story, and they said, oh, my God, that's crazy. Is that the way Canada's working now, or taxes just go up automatically? That's crazy. So they came forward and said, what can we do to help? And so they did 3 radio ads for us, and it really has helped raise the awareness of the.
I think we have one of them. I think this is it here. Brian, go ahead.
On April the 1st, Ottawa plans to raise the tax on beer by another 6%. What do Canadians think?
Whoever came up with this idea gets no back bacon, eh?
Good day, I'm Bob McKenzie. This is my brother Doug.
How's it going, eh?
Why don't you tax some other stuff, eh?
Like yams, confetti, or liver, eh? I hate liver.
Leave beer alone, eh?
A message from Beer Canada. Stop the hike. Visit hereforbeer.ca.
There you go.
Oh, that fills me with so much joy. It's funny, we were talking about what makes you happy today. Bob and Doug McKenzie make me happy.
All right. Listen, we want to thank you so much for the time today. We'll see what's in that budget tomorrow. And I think a lot of us, would feel, obviously understand the pain that would be felt by restaurant owners if this actually goes into effect. That's a big, big hike. No one wants to see that happen. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
You bet.
Thanks,
CJ
CJ.
Haley, president of Beer Canada, which really, just the name.
What a great title.
That we have a company called Beer Canada says everything about Canada.
And that he gets to say, I'm president
of Beer Canada.